thought I'd ever say that, but you can lately find me in Morgantown, West Virginia, about 1 hour, 20-minute drive south of Pittsburgh, so do come visit. I'm now on the faculty at West Virginia University, but I spent a lot of time in St. Louis, some of that time even involved in politics. I'm either neutral or oblivious, so we'll see. I've heard there's almost no political controversy happening in St. Louis, so this should be a pretty quick, easy, and peaceful debate. So tonight's format, we will keep it to about an hour. We might go a little longer if the candidates are okay with that, and we'll see what the audience questions are like. Everyone will get a 2-minute opening statement, and then we'll move into questions that I will ask. We'll alternate which candidate asks first. Candidates will have equal time to respond, and rebuttals will be allowed if the candidates so think they have been called out by another candidate. That will be 30 seconds. Each candidate will also give closing statements. We'll make sure everything is fair and orderly, thanks to Amanda Doyle, our timekeeper and co-moderator. I'll try to keep my questions brief because I know with 3 candidates and potentially a 4th on his way, we don't have a lot of time. Also, of course, I know the candidates have been speaking quite a bit, so we want to respect their time as well. I'm sure they've said quite a bit of things over and over again. We might try to ask some questions that have not been pitched tonight. For the audience, we love seeing you out here. It's so great we can be outdoors. We do allow applause at the beginning and the end of the debate and ask that there be no cheering, booing, or disruptive behavior here. So keep it civilized and keep it calm. And if you just absolutely love one of these candidates, just wait till the very end and give them that standing ovation. Or hold up your hat or foam finger, whatever they're handing out. Candidates for an introductory statement of 2 minutes, and the order was selected by asking them about 5 minutes ago each to roll a pair of trick gold dice that I brought with me.
Up to others. My name is Andrew Jones, and I'm a candidate for the mayor's position for, I had to duck from the bird, for mayor for the city of St. Louis. I contend that the city of St. Louis is under a lot of pressure. It needs change in order to become more effective and efficient in what we do. And I believe that I have the skill sets necessary to be able to implement those changes to make the city a great place and not a place where people are questioning what is happening with the city of St. Louis. My quick background, I have a master's degree in international business, MBA from WashU, bachelor's of science degree in economics, and I have over 40 years of experience in the electric utility business, 20 at Ameren UE and 26 years at Southwestern Electric, where I have headed up just about every department that our company has, from mergers and acquisitions to finance to marketing to you name it, I've done it, customer service, I've headed up all of those positions. I've been very effective in what we do. But last but not least, I've headed up our economic development and business development and workforce development organizations. And I've been very effective in getting things done, solving those particular issues. And I would like to bring those skill sets to the city of St. Louis and use those to help turn the city around. We certainly need some new, fresh ideas, and I'm certainly hoping to get the opportunity for you, and hoping that you guys will give me an opportunity as voting for me for mayor for the city of St. Louis.
Thank you. Alderman Spencer.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Oh.
Keep going.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael, and thank you all for coming out tonight. You know, we've been at this for a couple months now, doing debates and forums almost every night, and it's so encouraging to see almost every night new faces. The sheer volume of St. Louisans that are engaged in this election cycle is so inspiring. I first got into politics, as Michael mentioned, in 2015 when I ran for office for the first time. I come at this from a fairly unusual trajectory. I am a lifelong St. Louis and born in South St. Louis. Went to Truman State University, the first in my family to go to college, where I studied mathematics. And I came back and was working in the private sector and moved to the house where I live in now with my 13-year-old son in Marine Villa. It was a neighborhood that I really thought was up and coming, but I realized very quickly that we had a lot of challenges. And getting engaged in the neighborhood association and the community, I realized that we had some structural legislative issues holding back the neighborhood, one of which was a simple liquor moratorium. And so Steve Smith and others who had purchased property along the Cherokee Street District, which is now, as you all know, very flourishing and booming, was really held back by archaic laws that were preventing folks from being able to make a buck and make a profit and be a successful business. And so I thought I'd get in there, clean some things up, and go right back to private life. But I really fell in love with public service. They say it's a thankless job. It's absolutely thankful. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to have made some big changes, and not only the neighborhood, but on the legislative front of things. Having led the fight against the privatization of the airport, coming down on predatory lenders, being the first elected official to come out against Paul McKee, and just last summer passing some real meaningful legislation reining in guns in our streets. But when I think about the issues plaguing our city and what's holding us back, I think about the administration of city services, the basic things like potholes, trash, administering safety.
We're at time.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm so sorry,
Oh,
Amanda.
sorry.
Thanks. Anyway, thanks. I'll pay more attention.
I'll be more obvious. Sorry, I'm trying to be discreet.
All right, thank you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out on a wonderful, warm pre-spring night. How many, just show of hands, how many of you have used a typewriter? Now, how many of you have used carbon paper? Now, how many of you have used that in the last 3 years? Exactly. That's some of what I inherited when I became mayor in 2021. I also inherited a crisis. We were coming out of COVID. Our homicides were at an all-time high. We were in a hiring freeze. And yes, city services weren't being delivered. So we got right to work. First thing we did was ask you how you wanted us to spend almost $500 million in pandemic aid from the Biden-Harris administration. And you told us that you wanted us to spend it on people, on infrastructure, and upgrading the government experience so it serves you better. So we got right to work. You deserve a city that is safer, healthier, and stronger. And that's exactly what we've been doing for the last 4 years. See, every morning when before my son goes to school, we do our little secret handshake. I'm not going to tell you what that is. And we say, I love you, and he goes out the door. And then as I watch him drive away, I think about the progress that we've made on public safety. I think about how, even though that gun violence has touched too many families, mine included, but homicides are down 40%. Youth-involved shootings are down 50%. And our emergency response times have increased by 60%. This is just scratching the surface because we only have 2 minutes of what we've been able to do in the last 4 years, but we have been busy investing in St. Louis, investing in places that haven't seen investment in decades because we want to lift all the boats in the tide. So I look forward to this conversation this evening, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're only in round one. We'll have another round after the election next week. But if you make it to the mayor's office at the end of that second round, what is one thing anybody here should hold you accountable for having not accomplished in the next 4 years, and you would understand if they threw their vote elsewhere after supporting you in 2025? Start with Alderman Spence.
Having not accomplished or having
What-
accomplished?
Something you are setting out to accomplish, and if you don't do it, you don't blame someone for
Oh, sure. I mean, I
voting
think
the other way next time.
one of the key factors really is transparency. in delivering city services. We all should know exactly how long it takes to fill a pothole, to fix a water main break, to do the basic things that we are asking our city government to do for us. 911 calls, while those response times have gone down, we've implemented an automated service to answer your phone calls. Press 1 for fire, press 2 for EMS. Hold on the line if your life is in danger. You know, these are real critical. Being responsive doesn't just mean driving down numbers, but do people feel safer? Do they feel safe driving down the street, walking across the road, riding a bicycle? I know I don't. When we talk about crime in our city going down, the vehicular homicides have skyrocketed. So I want to see people being safer, feeling safer, walking, riding, or even driving a car in our city. I want to see the number of licensed vehicles go up. I want to see reckless driving going down. But at the end of the day, being transparent, reporting to the public is something that I will absolutely be accountable for. Right now, one of the things that I really commend this administration for taking on is putting together something called LUSTAT, where we are really taking in all the data with regards to all of those complaints citywide. But we're failing to share it with you all. How are we doing? How are we responding? What are we doing to make your lives better? We are losing population faster than we have in my lifetime. And if I'm elected mayor, we're going to stem the tide of the exodus of city residents, and we're going to deliver results, and we're going to be transparent and share with you all the data that we're collecting about the things that you are complaining about.
Mayor Jones.
One of the things I want you to hold me accountable for, should I be reelected after the next 4 years, is if North St. Louis looks different than it does now. Because I have been super laser focused on making sure that we lift all boats in the tide. And lifting all boats in the tide and making sure that St. Louis succeeds, North St. Louis is a big part of that. If we don't repopulate North St. Louis and make sure that people that live there have access to the same things that we do on this side of 44, then hold me accountable that I haven't done my job. I want to make sure that zip codes don't determine opportunity, and that zip codes don't determine your access to services, access to commercial things, access to retail. And so we are implementing our Economic Justice Action Plan, which has 3 pillars: to empower, develop, and transform areas that haven't seen investment in decades. Now, we didn't get this overnight. These problems are decades in the making. But in a second term, I want you to hold me accountable for how North St. Louis looks after 8 years. Thank you.
All right. Andrew Jones.
Well, what you can hold me accountable for is the fact that we are going to develop an economic development plan, because a comprehensive economic development plan eliminates all of the things that we are concerned about on the business level, retaining population, you name it. It solves those issues because everyone has the ability to be involved with it, to contribute, all constituents, on what is needed to make things better in the city of St. Louis. And you can hold me accountable for it, because one thing that's part and parcel of that is the fact that we will meet once a month, and we will have a public meeting to evaluate what's going on, and it is transparency at its finest level. Because we are meeting once a month, we can pinpoint where we're short, where we're doing well at, where we should concentrate our efforts, and it makes everything accountable.
It's responsible.
Donald Trump and what I've been able to, it's a mitigated opportunity to be able to move and be able to get registered, and we should be doing things with her department that she has rolling right now to get those people registered so that they can become citizens of the United States and have them become an
people in the greater St. Louis area that weren't born in the United States. They're making up only growing segments of our regional's population. They play an incredibly important role. It's a scary time for all of those folks and the folks connected with them. But what we do, how we combat them, how we can protect some of our most vulnerable community members needs to be led by those folks themselves. When Trump first took office 8 years ago, I was on the Board of Aldermen, and we proposed making the city a sanctuary city. And the Board of Aldermen, many of us, this was a political solution that we thought was a good one. And sitting back and listening and being led by those organizations and the folks experiencing the other side, being an immigrant in our community, we were asked, begged, demanded to please take that back. Please be led by actions that will best protect. And sometimes it's counterintuitive. Sometimes it looks like flying under the radar. But I think we need to make sure that however we move through these really tumultuous, trying times, that we are led by the folks that are impacted most by the decisions being foisted upon us by this federal government. And so leaning in, listening, and being nimble as we move through these next couple of months and years will be how I would lead as mayor.
Thank you. Now to Jefferson City. In 1861, our governor, Claiborne Fox Jackson, tried to enroll Missouri as the 12th Confederate state, and the legislature passed a law seizing the police departments of St. Louis and Kansas City in order to prevent them from being used to thwart the Confederate Missouri Guard from seizing the federal arsenal here in St. Louis and the arsenal and weapons of the U.S. government in Kansas City. That's where the lack of local control originates. Some people with a Missouri. We thought we had this all settled, but Jefferson City is coming back right at with a new plan to take over the city's police department. Kansas City has not gotten home rule, so those people too. Sort of a right moment in the last few years. I guess my question is two-part. One, do you agree with that action happening in Jefferson City? I mean, there's unusual support from the Ethical Society of Police, for instance, for this proposal. The second part is, if not, what can the mayor of St. Louis do if this does become law? Because the mayor can't stop Jefferson City from legislating. I will turn this to Mayor Jones first.
I had the first the last time, but I'll do it again. I absolutely do not agree with what's going on in Jefferson City right now. I am the only candidate running for mayor who has actually been to Jefferson City multiple times to talk to our legislators and our senators about how this is wrong for St. Louis. And this takes away the right, it just takes away your rights. You voted in 2012, overwhelmingly Missouri voted in 2012 to give St. Louis control of its own police department. And what we see now is the police unions not happy for whatever reason and going straight to Jefferson City. And we have special interests who are writing 6- and 7-figure checks to the governor and other legislators to make sure to try to take control of our police department. This is back in this now. And we're going to use every tool in our toolbox to fight against this and whatever we can to keep control of our down.
They just looks like we're losing, and this is disappointing, but really could be very, very tragic for this St. Louis. what the disarray that the current proposal would cause within the police department would be so far-reachingly damaging to the relationship between our police and the communities. It's reprehensible. And we will fight all the way through, not just in Jefferson City, but through the court, every avenue absolutely possible. But let me just say this. It's not just our union. So many officers are lobbying their state legislatures. Damage, not getting their part.
And an excellent department, because I suspect that a lot of the things that are driving the governor's decision and the state of Missouri's decision are based on presumed or perceived or even realistic crime being overwhelming for the city of St. Louis. And we have to do something about it. And so we just can't play at crime. We have to be so that we should not be able to lose our control of the police, but it's probably going to be inevitable. Now, I'm saying that I'm willing to work with the governor as part of a board commission so that we can get these things solved, and hopefully we can possibly negotiate going back to it after we get these things done. But certainly right now it doesn't look well. I'm looking at exhausting all of these that are there to make sure that we hold on to this, and stringing it out will possibly cost the city more money, but we have to find a better way to not do it.
Reporter Butler, do you want to jump in on this question?
Would love to.
And then I'll let you have an opening statement after.
Oh, thank you. No, that's more than generous. Thank you. I'm Michael Butler. I'm the recorder deed for the city of St. Louis. I'm running for mayor as well. You probably guys weren't I had a mistake on my calendar. And I had a family emergency. I'm late because I had a mistake on my calendar. I respect each and every one of you. It's not anyone's fault but my own. Steve Smith did everything can to organize this very well. So I'm here, and I do want to still talk about police union control over our police department. So it's been called state control because it's at the state level, and the state government is in the revert back to a state commission, but it's not the same state commission as before, guys. On this commission, I don't know if the other candidates have talked about it, but 3 out of the 5 of the commissioners, a majority of those commissioners get to pretty much be selected by our own local police union. And that police union is to create, gets to recommend the majority of candidates, and the governor will pick. We know the governor's going to pick the police union's candidates. So that's unethical. The police union is going to be able to pick a police chief. The police union is going to be able to be able to negotiate its own union contract. The police union is going to be able to select raises for its own members. It's not a way to run a police department. It's not an ethical way to better our police department. Now, we all want to make sure the police gets what they need as far as equipment, and we be able to build a quality police department. But this is not the way. That's why I totally oppose House Bill 495. I was in Jefferson City for quite some time as a state legislator. I was a leader in Jefferson City. I was a leader on the state budget committee in Jefferson City, and the Missouri Democratic Party. I can fight back against this heinous bill, and we can fight back with litigation, as well as what the unions did a long time ago after Right to Work passed. with a statewide ballot initiative.
We'll also give you 2 minutes as an opening statement.
Thank you.
When you're charting this, we want to get people want to know.
Fair. That's more than fair. I'm all about fair. So I'm Michael Butler. I'm the reporter deep for the city of St. Louis. I spent the last 6 years as a reporter. I've spent 6 years as a state legislator. I'm running for mayor to make life more fair for everyone. I started out in politics because I played a baseball game as a kid. I played for Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club, and I played shortstop. And I was playing against a team that I knew was cheating. The team was going into second base with the cleats up, and it made it hard for me to get the ball to first base, and I didn't really like that. So I was going to third base. They throw dirt in the air, and I couldn't get to the ground ball pretty well, and I didn't like that as well. And I don't like to say the name of the team we played that day, but the team's name does rhyme with Schmatthews and Schmicky. Schmatthews and Schmicky folks love to hear me say that they won that game. They won the game so good that I cried to my dad. I said, "Dad, this isn't fair. You said that cheaters never win." And my dad gave me an 8 and he said, "Son, life isn't fair." And when I grew up without the bones formed correctly in my leg, and I had to wear a Forrest Gump boot on my leg for the first 5 years of my life, and my brothers and sisters would be running around and I couldn't, my dad would say, "Son, life isn't fair." I don't think it's fair that our city has neighborhoods that are unsafe, and one kid has to stay in the house and another kid gets to ride the bike around the house. I don't think it's fair that there are neighborhoods in our city where people can jog by properties that are raising their values and other couples have to walk by properties that are vacant. I don't think it's fair that everything our city government has done to its citizens, and I want to change that by continuing to reduce crime, reducing vacant housing in our city, and improving our basic city services. Hope you can vote for me for mayor, and hope I can answer some more of your questions tonight.
Thank you. All right, moving on. There was a major snow and ice storm in St. Louis. What? And residents were furious their streets were not cleared. And the situation made the national press. The year was 2014. The mayor was Francis Slay, and the election had been in 2013. Good for him, right? But you all know there's been grumblings. I even hear them in West Virginia about the recent snowstorm and the situation. We've talked about safety. We've heard several hot rods running down Kings Highway during this debate. There's a general sense in the air that some of the things of daily life are not functioning the way they should. And so I'm going to give you an open-ended chance to say, is city government doing enough on these fronts? Access in a winter storm, the safety on the streets and sidewalks, the mechanics of just a city that's sane, safe, well, and holy. I'm also going to say I've been in West Virginia 6 months. I haven't heard a single gunshot, and drivers wave me across the street when I'm crossing and jaywalking. So I don't know where I am anymore. But what could city government do to make St. Louis feel the city's functioning better? I'll ask Porter Butler to jump in first.
So I'm the only candidate that is committed to salting and plowing side streets when it comes to large snowstorms. Because back when that snowstorm back in 2014, I thought that was the right thing to do anyway. That's what our citizens are wanting. That's what they've asked for, and we have the funds to do it. We can make it happen. It just takes political will to give our citizens the extra mile that they're asking for and have been for a while. How do we do this? We can be sure to set aside about $400,000 a year, and that is less than the amount that has been cut from the snow removal budget in the past year, put into a special budget project fund, and then every 5 to 8 years that we have these snowstorms, we'll be prepared. And we can already have contractors that we have put a deposit with. There are national companies that do this work all the time that can come and help us in those times of need. I normally don't like using third-party contractors, but for a situation where we have to do a job for every 5 to 8 years, it makes no sense to buy a brand new machinery and pay for full-time employees just for just seasonal, non-annual situations. So, of course we can do better. Of course we can do better our liquor license process. Of course we can do better with the signs in our city hall. Of course we can do better with with all sorts of things in City Hall. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm running for mayor. It's because I run an executive branch office. I'm the recorder of deeds in the city of St. Louis, and I left the legislature because I wanted to try my hand in improving the city office, and I've done that. I increased revenue by $700,000 a year. I increased office productivity, our staff productivity by 25%, and our customer service space by 100%, all while decreasing the amount of full-time employees we had by 4. I've done this because I've dived deep into my departments. I've talked to folks about what their solutions are and what we can do with technology, and I've given them the power to be great. And we've made a change in office. I can do that for the rest of City Hall.
Mayor Jones.
Didn't know which way you were going.
Trying to keep it mixed up.
Trying to keep it mixed up. So the question was about basically about city services and what we will do differently, and also about our streets. So we have implemented the first transportation mobility plan or study in the last 20 years, which is a citywide study on how we can make sure that our streets are safer and we design them in a safer way, no matter how you choose to get around. Couple that with over $300 million in transportation infrastructure projects we currently have going between now and 2027. You can Google Friendly Streets STL and you can get an interactive map that shows you all of our transportation infrastructure projects and when they're going to happen. Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And for those who experienced really bad snow removal in January, I want to sincerely apologize. We missed the mark. We didn't pivot fast enough, and for that, I am truly sorry. However, we've learned from it, and we're moving forward. If you saw the next 2 snowstorms after that, we hit the mark on those because we're also contacting other cities to see what their snow plans are, getting information from them, and then we're going to work with Alderman Shane Cohn to file legislation to make sure that everybody knows what their expectations are in future snowstorms. But also, I should say that the city has never plowed residential streets because our plows are too big and would bury people in and would further damage cars. So we want to be smart about what we do in the future to make sure that we don't already burden people that are in a snowstorm, and make sure that we're putting our services to use in a useful way. Thank you.
Andrew Jones.
Yes, I thought you would skip like that. Well,
How would you predict?
At Southwestern Electric Utility, snowstorms, ice storms are mass critical problems, and we've handled all of those things. We've handled each and every one of them, and when we're shy and when we're short, it's only those that fit within the plan that we have in resurrecting power. We have to understand what's happening, and we do it in an ecumenical fashion. We prioritize how we're going to approach these problems. We have days ahead of time to be able to predict what's happening, and we coordinate with others, the state. We make coalitions with everyone because we want to make sure that we get the equipment in the street so that we can get things done, so that we won't have power lines that are falling because of ice storms, and we have all types of issues that come from ice and snow, but we do a phenomenal job at it. And again, I've been intricately involved in arranging all of those things, and I must go back to what this is involved with our plans, our planning. Our planning is absolutely critical in everything we do, from economic development, business development, workforce development. We do everything based off of plans. We make adjustments to it, and that's how you stay on top of those things. As far as gaps in services, we will take care of those particular issues because a leader leads from the front. And I'm submitting that I have the leadership, I build and I motivate, we build consensus so that everyone in front will be a reflection of me, and I will hold everyone accountable so that we can deliver services to our city so we can move forward.
Alderman Spencer.
St. Louis can do better. I absolutely believe that we can do better at the basic city services. The latest snowstorm was fairly unusual.
it was an unusual amount of snow. But unusual weather events are the way of the future. We should expect to see unusual weather patterns moving forward. We all know this. Climate change is here, and we shouldn't need the Board of Aldermen to legislate how we make our streets safer when when weather comes and visits us. We need to do a better job at being nimble and being responsive. It wasn't just the side streets that weren't plowed. Anybody who tried to get around the city of St. Louis during the over 2 weeks that we were snowed in knew that the primary roads weren't cleared. It was 3 weeks in Jefferson, and parts of North Jefferson were still down to 1 lane. And this is unacceptable. This is absolutely unacceptable. While we cut the salt budget a little bit, and that was a recommendation from the street department, we're still sitting on piles of salt that weren't distributed. We have to do better. And the street department, we've known this is just laid bare, been inequities and inadequacies in our city departments to deliver city services. The potholes have been plaguing our community for years now. And it does come down to planning, not just planning for snowstorms, but planning with the utility companies, making sure that Ameren and Spire work together to do 5 and 10 year plans. So we're not digging up a road, putting a steel plate for sometimes years at a time, and coming back and digging the same hole a year after it was just repaved. Planning is absolutely a critical part of this, and so is reporting the data, the services that we're delivering to you on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Michael, can I interject?
Please.
Let's move to 1-minute responses. I've been giving 2. That way we can cover some more ground. So I'll let you know when we're 30 seconds through.
Okay, sound good.
Lightning round at 1 minute.
All right. Well,
Lightning round.
Slow lightning.
excellent. Let's get into it then. A recent announcement downtown that the Gateway Orange Park Foundation is investing in a project at the Millennium Hotel. The Cordish Company is the developer. They're seeking a 20-year tax abatement. As we know, the city's population tax revenues are not going up, despite decades of awarding tax abatements and tax increment financing with the but-for test promising some new utopia on the other end that seems to get more and more elusive. Do you support the 20-year tax abatement request for this project or for any project? What is basically your criteria going to be when you look at these kinds of requests to trade tax dollars for maybe a positive the city? I will start with Andrew Jones. Okay.
Well, being a 21-year practitioner of economic development and doing it all across the country, TIFs are the last thing you lead with. You don't lead with TIFs, particularly when your city has all the ways I talked about before, those railways, those airways, those waterways. You have everything that attracts people. And one thing you have to be able to do, you have to get buy-in from people and potential businesses for the city of St. Louis so that they will be committed to the city of St. Louis. Now, if you wanted to sweeten up the pot, you sweeten up the pot by offering TIFs and other things, other incentives, so they will be participants in our system. But again, a fully comprehensive workforce development, business development system will make sure that we get these things done.
Alderman Spencer.
Sure. First of all, I'm thrilled to see some investment in downtown through the Millennium Hotel and some other things going on down there. And I do recognize that there has to be sometimes some public engagement, some public involvement in making those numbers pencil out. But does this particular proposal make sense? Look, I don't think that our elected officials should be going through line by line to determine this, but we need an SLDC, a development corporation that isn't moving the needle, moving the mark every week, that has a level of trust with the community that we know they have our best back, our best interest in mind. And right now, I've lost faith in SLDC. I've lost faith that the St. Louis Development Corporation has our back and has our best interest in mind. This has been clear to me from the Northside grants that have been an absolute debacle coming out of that organization. And until we have a development corporation that I can trust is doing their due diligence and doing right by the citizens, I'm going to have questions about how these things move forward.
Mayor Jones.
I believe the question was, do we support the tax abatement for this project? So I'm going to answer the question. So we have a grading rubric at SLDC that developers can see based on the particulars of a particular project, what tax abatement that they qualify for, and it's based on, are they including affordable housing in it, the geography, and a whole host of other things. So everybody knows what their expectations are at the beginning of a project versus this sort of tug of war that used to happen in times past. So based on this particular project, I do support this particular tax abatement because it's going to change our downtown for the better. And I asked SLDC and GSL to bring me a plan for that building back in May. They delivered it in September, and now we have a plan to go forward. So I support the tax abatement for this project.
Recorder Butler.
No, I do not support tax abatement at this time. I want to uplift the name of Jennifer Pendleton. Jennifer Pendleton was a 36-year-old woman who died outside of City Hall, an unhoused citizen of ours. And as long as we are not giving local funds to our Human Services Department and supporting our unhoused citizens, I'm not going to support local funds going to a large development downtown, just blocks away. We've got to set our priorities right, and as mayor, I'll set our priorities right, and I'll put local funds, and then we'll see where we can go from there. But no, not at this time.
Okay, another development question. I'm going to make it as quick as possible, because I think everyone knows Paul McKee and North Central Generation. What should be done? What should we do with this? He doesn't have redevelopment rights, but he continues to be a factor. His properties continue to sit empty, unkempt. The vision is long since left the station and derailed. So,
sure, this has been an absolute failure in a lot of ways. And I'm proud to have been the first elected official to come out against Paul McKee and actually remove the building code extension that he had built into our city ordinances. And that resulted in real fines and fees to one of the largest landholders in North St. Louis. So we've seen the failures of the 3-bed hospital, okay, the grocery store that didn't work. Right now we have the very real quagmire of a large amount of land holdings continue to be controlled by Paul McKee. So unwinding that is going to be a very complicated set of tasks ahead, working with the banks, but it has to be a priority if we're going to get serious about real development and real investment in North St. Louis because of the large amount of properties that those entities continue to own. And I will make it a priority. It has been it should be a priority, and unwinding that ownership structure has got to be led by the city.
So I think the continued use of eminent domain is important here, and this is where I give the mayor kudos for doing some of this already in the past during the past 4 years. I represented in the state legislature a major part of Paul McKee's footprint, and was very much against quite a few state tips and trying to claw back for some things against Paul McKee. So I say that I started out there 12 years ago and nothing was being done. And now here we are, and we still have what I hear complaints. Break it up. We got to break that project up. We've got to take those properties and put them in the hands of folks that want to have progress. And we can do that, and we can continue some of the work that the mayor's done already to do that.
Thank you, John.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I've done, which is we are holding Paul McKee accountable. We are taking his property back through eminent domain, and we are working with the neighborhoods that surround his projects to make sure that they can start to see their property values rise again because of the stronghold that he has had on the neighborhoods that surround NGA and Homer. I won't the 3-bedroom clinic. I won't say the name of that. Which we should all be praying for the people who lost their jobs at that clinic because it is now closed. And so we're working with Slate to make sure that we can help them get placement in new jobs in the healthcare industry. So we are absolutely holding him accountable, and we will continue to do so as long as I'm mayor.
Jones.
One of the issues that really made me run for mayor is that I would be sitting out in the audience with you guys, making an evaluation of these three. But I submitted back in 2016, and I keep using these terms, you have to have a comprehensive plan because your plan would have prohibited him from being able to do so. Now, you can work legislatively and you can do everything legally to try to get those clawbacks from Paul McKee, but this is part and parcel of why you don't lead with TIFs. You don't do any of those type of things because you have a comprehensive plan that lays out what you're going to do. It is absolutely critical to do this, or we'll still be talking about Paul McKee somewhere down the line. We will be talking about him even further because we won't sit down and do a comprehensive plan that covers everything so that we can make sure we build those things in so that we can claw those things back. I saw the time.
Maybe we look forward to the day when we have a Royale mayoral debate and Paul McKee's not one of the questions. But let's move on in the interest of time. We all know there have been issues at the City Justice Center, 18 deaths since 2020. I'm going to briefly just ask each of you to define what you think the problem is and what you think the solution is, City Justice Center. And I'll start with Andrew Jones.
Well, the issue when we started in 2016, because I can lay my finger on these things, and I submitted that the workhouse, there are all type of mediations that you have to do to keep that building going, because I could foresee that the work of the other building would not be able to house them. So we're going beyond first level thinking on these things. We have to have it available, refurbish the building, get it in working order so that we won't run into these problems that we have now. We were saying that we were going to just tear the building down as if we can just do so. I'm submitting that you can't do it. It's been proven that you can't do it. We have to have those things taken into consideration, and under my administration, we will build those type of protections in so that we can take care of it.
Alderman Spence.
I think the issues at the jail, well, first and foremost, are reprehensible to have so much loss of life in under our city's custody. I think the problem is a lack of leadership and a lack of urgency. I have to commend the mayor for changing the leadership recently. I think it took far too long, but I am really hopeful about Mr. Burris coming in and offering a new leadership there. A lack of transparency has been an enormous problem throughout the process. The failure to allow the oversight board to even have access to the jail. This wasn't just the oversight board. We were not letting lawyers in to see their clients. And this is just inexcusable. The lack of transparency about what's going on in a facility in which we are detaining people that haven't been convicted of crimes yet. They are simply there in our custody, and we have to do better. We need better leadership, we need more urgency, and we certainly need more transparency in our Justice Center.
Mayor Jones.
It's easy to criticize from the sidelines when you've never actually been in the jail. But let me tell you this. The workhouse is coming down in March, period. And secondly, absolutely, we can do better. But a lot of the problems that were inherent in our correction systems were decades in the making. And so we are making progress. Yes, the deaths have been too many in the past, but we have made progress in 2024, which is 2 deaths because we changed the healthcare provider, and we appointed the Department of Health to oversee the healthcare provider to make sure that the services that we are providing are adequate. And absolutely, Doug Burris has given me a 120-day plan, and I'm confident that he will reach all of his goals, and we will continue to treat our detainees with dignity and respect as they await their trial dates.
Butler.
Transparency has been a big issue at the jail, but also employee morale has been a bigger issue, and employees talk about how the amount of vacancies for positions in the building, as well as how and what they're grasping with a lot of the inmates that are in the building. So we got to increase the amount of employees we have there to cover all the grounds. We got to do what we're supposed to do with the rest of our public safety department too, and increase salaries and build quality over quantity and continue to build our quantity there too. But also, we've got to remember why we want to improve our justice system in the first place, which was to reduce the amount of people going into the CJC and continue and increasing the amount of diversion programs and increasing the amount of home arrest stays and keeping folks from getting into the incarceration process. And as mayor, I'll work with our judicial system to make sure we're doing just that.
Great. Well, I feel a little guilty of the next question because Elliot Davis is retired, so that helps. But we don't like it when our elected officials go out and see the world. But I want to know, is there an American city you look to and think, man, St. Louis really could learn from this place? Let's start with you, Mayor.
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble for this because a lot of my friends are of those cities. So we have great relationships with Kansas City, obviously. I think Quentin Lucas is doing a great job as mayor there. And there's a lot of growth happening in Kansas City. Cincinnati is another city that we have great relationships with their staff and trade a lot of information from. Cleveland as well. Denver obviously is a lot bigger than us, but their mayor and their staff have been very open and honest with us, as well as Baltimore. Baltimore's staff have really been guiding us through our new stat process and become more transparent in making sure that you know how that process is working. And just for your knowledge, well, never mind. We'll talk about that.
Recorder Butler.
Kansas City comes first to mind. And Mitchell Denver, I was thinking that too. But Kansas City comes to mind for me in the legislature. I learned why Kansas City passed us back in 2015. I was there when it happened. It's because when the election's over in Kansas City, their leaders come together. Republican and Democrat, no matter who ran against each other, they find a way to find some big project that they'll work on locally and bring to Jefferson City, and they get it done. And they watch us fight over here, and they get it done for UMK, get it done for Early Baseball Museum. They get it done, and we're still fighting. The campaign doesn't stop here, so we got to change our political culture if we want to improve it. What I've seen in other cities is how they work together, and I hope to be
doing pretty bad, but they restructured what they did according to the police. They locked down the probably 4%, 5% of those people who were committing those particular crimes. The economic development department is headed up by one of my college classmates, and he's done a phenomenal job down there because he sees the big picture in bringing business so that we and they could bring money to the city so that the city can thrive, because we can get rid of the 1% earnings tax eventually with the right businesses in our city. But Miami comes to mind as one of the cities that I would like to mimic.
Oh, well, there's so many cities I share the mayor's admiration for Cincinnati and Cleveland and Kansas City. I look at Indianapolis, their city and county merging, and the growth that spurred is really, really inspiring to a city like St. Louis. I think about Atlanta, a city that had the same MSA the day I was born in 1978 and has doubled us in the last 40 some odd years because of their ability to heal the racial divide in that broader community. And I look to Detroit, a city that has had such destruction, such decay, very, very similar to St. Louis, and refocusing their efforts and their investment in their downtown, their riverfront, And it's absolutely, and the public art, I should say, in Detroit is absolutely phenomenal and incredibly inspiring.
Well, to ask each of you, who is a political role model or mentor in your life and why? Starting with Andrew Jones.
Political role models? I don't know if I have one. I don't know if I have a political role model because so many people have messed up so many things that I believe that if I had to take under advisement on who I am inspired by, it would be someone like a Thomas Sowell. It would be someone, and I'll leave it at that since you said one. Thomas Sowell, I think he's an inspirational thinker, and I'm looking at trying to solve problems the easiest way that we can solve those problems. And if I had to throw one other in there, that would be Milton Friedman.
You can have two if it fits in 1 minute. Alderman Spencer.
Wait, you're throwing a curveball here. I would say Jose Mujica, who was the former president of Uruguay and is in his last days of life, I think, at this point. But when he came into the presidency of that nation, he gave the presidential fleet of helicopters to the general public to make sure that they had that was their emergency helicopter service. And he lives a humble life of humility now in the mountains in his last final days, and really, really defined public service to me and redefined what being in service at the highest level of any government, in particular in that nation, could really do for its people.
Porter Butler.
I have so many, but Freeman Bozzie Jr. comes to mind. When I played that baseball game at 9, he became mayor not too long after that. And he was the first African-American mayor of the city. He was, of course, a role model for me of how to get things done with your talent, as well as to focus on the poorest parts of our city, especially North City, where he came from. And he's just beloved in the Black community in St. Louis, and that's what you hope and pray for as an elected official. Yeah, Freeman Bozzie Jr. would probably be number one. I want to tell a quick story. I met his dad when I was graduating high school. Freeman Bozzie Sr. came to my dad's print shop, and I told him, Freeman Sr., that I wanted to be a lawyer. I was going to go to school to be a lawyer first. And Freeman Sr. says in his voice, says, "Well, why would you want to be a lawyer? See, a lawyer put a man in jail, and a politician like me come get him out." And that really convinced me. And he said, "Me and my son, we've been working on that for years." And between Freeman Sr. and Jr., they've been good role models for me.
Mayor Jones.
Pearlie Evans used to run Bill Clay's campaigns, and she was just a fireball, a firebrand in local politics. And I got an opportunity to be mentored by her and to learn a lot from her. And one of the things I learned from her was that in this work, especially as a Black woman in this work, you're often overlooked and you're often marginalized. But also she taught me how to deal with that and how to make sure that I just let it roll off me like water down a duck's back, and to be bought and unbossed.
All right. Close to the end here, I'm going to throw out another kind of personal question, but I'm really just curious about what's the last book you read? Start with you, Alderman Spencer.
Oh, well, I do a lot of audiobooks. The last, yes, my list is fairly long recently, but I mean, I recently reread The Power Broker. If you haven't read that book, it's a doozy and really worth reading a couple of times. The life of Bob Moses, and really what the abuse of power can do to the human psyche and to a community, New York City. It's one of my favorite books. That was the most recent book I reread.
Mayor Jones.
The most recent book I read was Love and Whiskey by Vaughn Weaver, who is the founder of Uncle Nearest. Uncle Nearest is the distiller who taught Jack Daniels everything that he knew. And it's a wonderful story about how Jack Daniels and Nearest Green were friends, and how the Green family continued to work at the Daniels distillery for many, many years after both of them died. And it's a wonderful story about entrepreneurship and just Fawn is just, she's also a firebrand. Just she takes control, and the way that she has really built this brand from nothing is very inspirational.
Reporter Butler.
I read Obama's. I read part of Obama's memoir, and I only read part of it. I'm sitting there thinking I can't remember the title of it. But I'm like most of y'all. I read about the first half, and it just reminded me a lot of the times I had in the state legislature. And when it got to the presidential part, it wasn't as close to me. But it was the inspiring story of humble beginnings and how he kept that same spirit as he went up the totem pole. And then, of course, a lot of his personal stories about him and his wife and his family and how they navigated through that was very important to me. And quite frankly, around the same time, my wife read Michelle Obama's her autobiography, and it was very interesting the things that she took from that as well.
Andy Jones.
Migrations of Cultures by Thomas Sowell. I'm listening to it now for the third time. It's a phenomenal book. It's overwhelming on the information that it imparts, talking about everything from each culture and how every culture has contributed something to mankind, and you can't overlook it. And it contributes to me looking at people as being overwhelming contributors to the benefit of humanity, and everyone has something to offer.
What is something you wish I had asked you about tonight that I didn't? Starting with Reporter Butler.
Something I wish you'd ask me about. My plans to reduce vacant housing and to continue to reduce vacant, be more aggressive with using RAMS funding to make sure we're offsetting some of the costs by reducing our LRA properties balances so we can increase the amount of LRA properties that are being sold, to also pick an area that's building from the assets of our city between Jefferson and Skeeter, Delmar to Page. I want, after 4 years of being mayor, that no longer we have the Delmar divide. It's no more Delmar divide. It'll be the Page divide. And then years after that, there'll be an MLK divide and Natural Bridge divide. We can rebuild our neighborhoods and rebuild our housing, and this RAMS funding is a great opportunity to do that. So I want to make sure that every day I'm waking up thinking about increasing population and building new housing and making sure folks can live in those spaces.
Mayor Jones.
I wish we had an opportunity to talk about what I've done on the economic development front. We have built over 3,500 units of housing. We've demolished over 900 vacant buildings. We have repaired over 800 homes for our seniors so they can age in place. And we have leveraged over $250 million into $1 billion of investment all across our city, but paying more attention to North St. Louis, because our city cannot succeed if over half is left to fail. And that has been the case for the last 70 years. So I am committed to continuing that progress if I am reelected for the next 4 years.
Alderman Spencer.
I guess I'll be completely selfish here and offer something that I enjoy talking about, which is what I like to do. I'm just getting to know us as person, as human beings. What is it that we do in our off time when we need to decompress? I was thinking about that because I recently planted a bunch of echinacea seeds that I am very proud of sprouted, which if anybody has ever sown seeds, that's an accomplishment. You have to freeze them, you have to stratify them. It takes a lot. And I recently had 49 echinacea sprouts growing in my kitchen right now, which I'm thrilled to go home and visit after this.
Workforce development. I wish you would have asked us just a little bit about workforce development, because I think it's key to helping the city of St. Louis. When I first ran in 2016, workforce development is something that I said that we could bring up many of the workforce development boards that I serve on. We could bring a bus here, we can get people to join those buses, and we will get people jobs. But the critical component part of it is that most people fail when it comes to first level thinking, when it comes to their job and first level performance, and we certainly need to get those married up with those jobs because we have a personnel problem. We don't have a jobs problem. We have personnel problems. So all of those things that Tishaura is working on, Cara and Michael, when it comes down to seeing people having fairness and having affordable homes, that could be half of those could be eliminated by those outstanding jobs that come from that.
Right. One last question before we turn to, and this is kind of another open-ended one, but if on the charter, the mayor is a rather weak figure. We all this might also get you in trouble, but you could unilaterally wave a magic wand and give the mayor one additional power to make the city a better place. What would it be? We'll start with Andrew Jones.
One additional power. Boy, if I can't have the ones that I need, I'll just deal with what I have because I believe that I bring the strength, the know-how, the knowledge, all of the capabilities in order to be able to lead the city of St. Louis. So under times of derision and issues and challenges, I believe I build consensus, we'll get things done, and I believe that there's nothing that I need to do if I can't get all the power to change everything like Thanos and snap my finger overnight. I believe I
In my master's program, our flat organization, there are ways to influence and be a stronger man, but there are ways to do it. And we saw this through much of the long-term mayors, and the strategy is to collaborate and consolidate. And you got to collaborate first and learn how to work with folks, because every single flat organization, elected official, has people that voted for them and has a voice. And as long as we're not trying to bully and learn how to work with folks, we need to collaborate in long-term.
With Mike, since the mayor isn't as weak as the system would lead you to believe with that term. I mean, the mayor really has the authority to appoint the department, the heads of every department just about in city government, even to appointing the director of personnel, as we were just talking about. So there is a lot of strength and power in being the mayor of the city of St. Louis, especially in a region that is so fractionated. The voice is certainly one of a great authority and power. But if I could change and add one additional power, I think it would be to have authority over what the state is doing to our city. The state laws relating to our women, to bodies, okay, to guns, to the things that the state prevents us from even having to do in our own city. It's reprehensible. And if I had the power to change one thing, it would be the state in which we reside and the power that they exert over our fair city.
So the mayor's office is only as weak as the person in it. So I have already, determined that, there are many departments that I don't control. So I have monthly meetings with all of the countywide elected officials, monthly meetings with all the alders, and to try to make sure that we are not always on the same page, but at least they know that there's an open door, and we're communicating and working in sync on things that they care about. If there was one thing that I could change, I'm going to steal Michael's answer as well, the personnel director. Because all of the things that we want to change involve personnel. And right now, the personnel director does not report directly to the mayor and is not appointed by the mayor. It's appointed by the Civil Service Commission, which makes a recommendation for that appointment. So it would be the personnel director. Thank you.
Cool. And yeah, we're at the end almost. And I just want to say, as an outsider, this is so much different than opening my browser to Facebook and reading about this election. Everyone's so polite and convivial. Spreads of agreement. civility and collaboration in the air. Wow. Good for St. Louis, I think. I'm sure Facebook will look different in the morning, but I'm going to look at it tonight afterwards. So, I'm going to turn it over to each of you for your 2-minute closing statement. And anything we didn't cover, of course, you can wrap into it. Start with Alderman Spence.
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Steve, and everybody for coming out. You know, this election cycle, while in many ways feels like a redo of 4 years ago, it is such a welcome opportunity to be actually out in the public, being able to talk to folks. We were afforded that opportunity 4 years ago. So the level of engagement that we're seeing here this cycle is so encouraging and so inspiring. I'm running for mayor again this time because I really believe that St. Louis can do better. We're at a turning point in our city, a critical point, a time of unknown, a time of real tumultuous activity at the state and federal levels. And if I'm elected, I'm going to focus us on the basics: transparency, good government. We don't need the FBI to root out corruption in our city departments. We need a leader who roots that out within city government and sets a tone and sets a policy of good government throughout city departments. I'm encouraged by much of the activity going on in many of our neighborhoods and the level of engagement that you all are exhibiting here tonight. But if you think we're going in the right direction, if you think we're moving and doing things in a way that you would like to see continue, if you think we're hitting the mark on snow removal and potholes and the things that matter on a day-to-day basis, I might not be the candidate for you. But if you're looking for somebody with a track record of getting things done on the legislative front, who has an adherence and a track record of good government, of transparency, and serving our citizens, then I'd like you to consider voting for me on March 4th. But most importantly, our voter turnout so far has been so low. While people are engaged on these panels and these discussions, please make sure to go out and vote tomorrow, Friday, or March 4th. But we have such an awesome number of ways to exercise your right, and it's important that each and every one of you cast a ballot before the March 4th primary. Thank you.
I turn now to Andrew Jones.
I believe the city of St. Louis needs change. It needs significant change. It's absolutely critical. But I will submit that, and how much time do I have? A minute?
2 minutes,
2
45 seconds.
minutes, fantastic.
Good.
Because I like to ask each and every one of you, I waste my time to applaud all my fellow people who are running for a mayor, because I think that they all want to offer something good for the city of St. Louis. I really believe they do. I just believe that I have the significant amount of experience and the know-how to get things changed, but I am glad to be here sitting amongst them. We've been to multiple of these things, and it's getting exhausting, and I can tell you what they're going to say before they're going to say it, you know, and I believe that they think that I'm okay, and I really appreciate all of them for their issues and what they brought forth. They made me rethink some things, made me lose some of my intensity in trying to solve these issues, because it's very critical. But again, I would like to thank each and every one of them for running. I would hope that you would vote for me, and we'll see what happens at the end of the rainbow. And again, if they need anything from me, and I've offered before, and no one's called me or said anything to me, so I don't think I offered anything of value. Well, maybe I've offered something of value this time that someone will probably need some level of input. So because it's all about the city of St. Louis, and that's what I'm about.
Mayor Jones.
Times have been tough, and these problems have been decades in the making. See, but now is not the time to change course. I see and feel the potholes in our streets just like you do. That's why we're repaving 30 miles of our main roads with more to come. I have a son in a St. Louis school, is that public school? A St. Louis school just like you do, which is why I'm invested in our youth and young people, giving them places to have fun and be kids and stay safe. And I want my family to feel safe just like you do, which is why I have rejected the false choice between investing in prevention, intervention, and enforcement. We can do all of those, and as a result, we are no longer in the top 10 most dangerous cities in the country. The one thing I've learned as a leader is that people who've never run anything think they can change everything. And because of that, when the going gets tough, or when you're faced with a hard decision, they won't show up. They'll show you exactly who they are, and they'll vote present or be absent or resign. President Biden once said that setbacks are unavoidable, but quitting is unacceptable. I will never quit parts of my job because it's too hard or I don't want to do it. I don't have that choice. We have to keep moving St. Louis forward together. This is about the work. This is about the change, and change is tough, but St. Louis is tougher. And so I'm asking you to keep working with me to keep moving St. Louis forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Things change in St. Louis all the time. I just think about when we started this debate, we were in 60-degree weather, and now we're all bundled up. So I won't keep you long because my teeth might chatter a little bit. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to answer, and for you all to ask, and for me to answer many of your questions here, give me an opportunity to still speak. You might still have a few questions about me, and I'll go ahead and answer some of those. Yes, I am the current recorder of deeds for the city of St. Louis, and I've served in the state legislature. Yes, I have a master's degree in public administration. Yes, I want to bring our city back to the basics and focus on government services and improving our service to you. No, I'm not 19 years old. I'm just a young-looking 39-year-old, and I've spent a third of my life dedicated to improving St. Louis City. I hope to spend the next 4 years doing the same thing with your support. What I'll focus on every day is continue to reduce crime, to the root causes of crime, and continue to partner with organizations to build a quality police department, to enforcing our city traffic laws equitably, and of course pushing back against any federal government intrusion that's going to dampen our relationship between our police department and our community. To also reducing vacant housing by aggressively investing RAMS funding into neighborhoods that we can transform, by building new properties and increasing our population. And then supporting our public schools. I hope to support our public schools by renewing the community schools program in our city, by putting $5 million a year from our RAMS funding to get a full-time therapist, a full-time social worker, and a full-time nurse in every low-income school in our district, about 20 schools, through our health department that already has a community schools department. I want to expand that and make sure we're supporting our schools. And lastly, by improving our city services. That's easy, guys. Leaf pickup, snow removal, trash pickup, everything in between to make sure that you're getting your tax dollars worth. I'll spend every day with deep diving into our departments, making sure we can do better. And I've done this before. I'm committed to you, and I can't wait to see you at the polls and hopefully earn your support. And Michael Butler.
Sorry, you're supposed to say that. You're like,
30 seconds. So I was one. My website is michaelball.org. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to all of our candidates. Almost at the end of this stretch of the race. The two of you will get to go out and do more of this. It's great to have all this optimism, all these wonderful ideas in the air. Thank you to the audience. Mudslinging, booze, everybody was in a good mood. I think the weather might be helping us all.
Frozen.
But don't forget to vote. I'm going to vote like 20 times from West Virginia. And don't forget to tip your bartender at the wonderful Royale Food Spirits. And thanks all. And this will be up on YouTube soon, Steve, right? Yep. And yeah, have a good night.